Welcome back, everyone. And today with me, I have Anshuman. Anshuman runs and started Increff, which is the management software and analytics software that we're using, that also happens to be used by, which is crazy, as a small business, kind of sitting at 500,000 to be using the same softwares that they are. Obviously, Anshuman, you can explain a bit better what Increff does, but this kind of fits into our nice, neat section that we're doing on YouTube at the moment around inventory management. We've done three things to try and make sure that we've got the right inventory set up. We've hired someone externally as a freelancer. We've worked with Predico on a kind of smaller scale, and then we're now working
Yeah.
at a very high level with Increff. So, Anshuman, what does Increff do, and why should people be interested in it?
Now, so Andy, at Increff, our focus is to help brands on improving inventory efficiency. Basically, sell higher at higher margins with the same inventory or lower inventory. And the way we do it is we have a very strong merchandising solution which maps brands' granular demand data and then helps them plan their inventory so that they have the right inventory at the right point and at the right time. And
Perfect.
that basically helps brands avoid, let's say, understocking and losing sales, or overstocking and then having to liquidate and lose margin, right? So these are the fundamental problems which we are trying to solve. And the way we have built it is it's extremely easy to use. So any small and medium brand can basically use it themselves. They can integrate with the system, have their data automated, and you can leave the data crunching and analysis part to the tool, and you can use the insights and take business strategic calls faster and at a more accurate level.
Absolutely. And this is the main thing that we've really engaged Anshuman and the team on is that, as a small business owner, we're sitting here thinking we're making the right decisions, but we
Yeah.
do it manually using Excel. It's prone to errors. It never updates. If it updates, it sometimes will have some errors in there as well. And so then what does that mean as a business is that we are regularly stocked out of our best sellers, which is obviously the
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen. We have too much stock sitting there in that dead stock, which is a bit more pernicious as well, because like you mentioned, Anshuman, it really brings together all of that working capital, which we could hopefully use somewhere else in the business to go into new channels. And then before you know it, you're in this little death spiral, liquidating stock, destroying margin, destroying brand value. And that's what we're trying
Yeah.
to avoid as we've grown from kind of rapidly from £5,000 up to now we're close to 500,000, closing in on that million mark on a yearly revenue basis. But we've really shot ourselves in the foot.
No, and Andy, honestly, the way it also helps is it takes away the grunt work of collating data, cleaning it up, running models, and takes away human biases, right? Many times when we build our own models and we do our own analysis on Excels, our own biases also creep in, right?
Mm.
Whereas when it's run on a model and a tool, it gives you unbiased opinion and insights. And then as a merchandiser, as a business owner, you can then take business calls, which are far more accurate. And it gives you a lot of time to do those uh, value added activities rather than crunching data.
Yeah,
Makes
absolutely.
your life easier.
And I see myself coming up with this every time I use the tool, really. There's so many times where I'm trying to work out what is my core seller. And I then see,
Yeah.
okay, it's actually still my orangutan stock, but I don't have anything else that is a core seller. What am I doing to adjust that? The second thing might be then my top sellers. I've got a couple of socks in there that personally I don't love when I look at them, but that are selling like hotcakes and that I need to be doing
Yeah.
more with, especially onto that bias thing. I think it looks a bit, rubbish, but then everyone just loves it as the customers and it's listening to that through the data.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, Andy, one more thing which is very unique to fashion brands is
Yeah.
you keep changing styles, right?
Right.
Every season, every few months, you bring in new styles. And how do you leverage your past data and your product attributes so that you can understand the demand pattern at those attribute levels, right? At the print level, at an animal print level, or material and length, and then apply it to your new styles, which you have never launched. So that power of analyzing product attribute level demand pattern and then applying it to your new style is something which is very core to fashion as a business. Right? which
Yeah.
on an Excel it is practically impossible to do.
And Shuman, what are the other things that you see, I guess, for us as Bear Kind? We're a relatively small business. We're a fashion business, and you kind of you touch on one point around like what are we going to be doing with product launches. Are there any other factors that you see affect businesses like ours or like our audiences?
So, Andy, one more thing which I've seen, which is slightly different than merchandising, is when brands which are specifically online and direct to customers,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And they're not just selling on their own platform, but selling on other marketplaces like Amazon and eBay and others. Uh, because of limitations of software, they tend to keep dedicated inventory for these channels, right? Which makes your inventory very inflexible and inefficient,
yeah,
right? If brands have the capability where they can keep a single view of inventory and do real-time inventory sync with all marketplaces, all channels, be it B2B or B2C, that makes the inventory far more efficient because you are now exposing 100% of your width, all styles, all pieces to every channel. And instead of trying to predict channel wise demand pattern, what is happening is whichever channel is performing, you are fulfilling those orders
yeah.
automatically. Right? That makes the inventory churn much faster than keeping dedicated inventory for different channels.
That's actually really interesting because one of the things that we're trying to do at the moment, Anshuman, we've got really two core channels. The first is our direct to consumer website on Shopify.
Yeah,
The second is then our 800 retailers, which we have mostly and predominantly through Fair and Anchor Store. Um, and we're trying to now expand out into those other channels that you're mentioning and getting ahead of these problems. We're looking to go into Amazon, but we have to do for FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. We then are
yeah,
also looking at on by eBay, not on the high street, other channels where we're sitting there thinking, okay, well, we've got one logistics provider in the center of the country. We want to go out to another distribution center through Amazon,
yeah.
but is it the right call to be parking, 30, 50 units of each item at Amazon for these big orders, or what are we doing there? But I hadn't considered that either yet.
Yeah. And also, the moment you start splitting your inventory into, let's say, multiple locations, you need to understand what is your postcode level demand pattern, right? What
Okay.
inventory, which styles, how many pieces should you split so that you don't end up having stock in one location, whereas the demand is in another channel, another location, right?
Yeah.
So this is another piece of merchandising problem where how do you improve your regional utilization? How do you fulfill orders from the warehouse which is closest to the customer rather than trying to fulfill it from the warehouse which may be farther away, incurring higher logistic cost and more time.
Yeah, I like that. And that really kind of, I guess, puts us it nicely. We've gone through a whole variety of different problems that we, as an like a e-com business or a fashion business, have come across.
Yeah.
And now, what are we going to be doing actually about that? And that's, I guess, where we step into the Increff tool and we can start to walk through.
Yeah.
So obviously, we did a really easy setup with you guys. I had a chat with Tejaswini and the team, got everything uploaded, all the information automatically out from Shopify. It was a breeze. So we've kind of skipped maybe a few minutes on that, but we'll go I think mostly into the tools if that works with you.
Yeah.
Cool. So Anshuman, we've just jumped straight into the Increff tool here. I'm on our top seller details, and this runs me through what are my top sellers over the past 12 months. So from September last year to September this year, what is working and
Yeah.
what is selling. But what should we be looking at? I've got a feeling of kind of what my top sellers are, but as an expert, what are you thinking about when you're reviewing this with a brand?
So, and a couple of things, right? One, sometimes it's comes as a surprise that some of the styles which you intuitively don't feel they are your best sellers are
Yeah,
actually performing much better. So the tool gives you that clarity. The
yeah,
second thing is, especially if, let's say, you are selling across different channels,
yeah,
right? Your top sellers can be different across different channels because your customers are different, your customer profiles are different, right? So that allows you to understand how each channel is performing and what particular products, what attributes are performing in each channel so that you can plan according to each channel. The third thing which is critical is once you know which are your top sellers, how do you ensure that you have the continuous supply of those top sellers, right? You shouldn't be stocked up because those few styles are giving you your highest revenue. And the tool allows you to plan your reordering in such a way that depending on your MOQs and your lead time, you can automatically plan when to release new orders and how much to order so that you are never stocked out of your top sellers. Basically, creating a green channel for those styles rather than planning every time.
Yeah,
So,
and always, yeah,
so
that's
those are
that's
the
spot on.
few important things, right? You don't end up stocking out those, so you don't lose your revenue, high quality revenue from those styles.
Perfect. And one of the areas that we have really struggled with previously is around, understanding how you split that by our different sizes. So we run, typically adult men's 7 to 11 is the size that sells the most. And but interestingly, when we do our reviews of customers, the vast majority of our products are purchased by ladies, and we that kind of
Right.
shows us that actually, okay, so we've got a very heavy gifting business here of ladies purchasing for men, just by even just scrolling through and not doing the data analysis behind it, but just saying, okay, is this a top seller or not over the past 12 months, and
Yeah.
how should we be thinking about our business as an e-commerce? Okay, so what are the ads that we're going to be targeting? Okay, we're going to be thinking more about how that goes out to, how this, I guess, resonates with ladies, the messaging, and then how it looks like for them purchasing for husbands, brothers, sisters, or what have
Yeah.
you across the family.
No, and interestingly, one thing which it helps is it also tells you how much inventory you are currently holding and how many days of cover you have, right? So it allows you that to identify inventory which are top sellers and you have enough inventory. So when you are investing in your marketing campaigns, you are only investing in those styles where you have inventory. Otherwise, sometimes you end up promoting a style which gets quickly stocked out
Yeah,
and you
perfect.
kind of lose your whole marketing ROI on that.
And I think that's actually a fantastic point, Anshuman. We have a real issue at the moment with one of our Facebook ads is actually just simply our orangutan sock on a picture, which then goes directly to our orangutan ads. But we quite
Yeah.
regularly stocked out of them, and then we said, okay, look, we need to make sure we're always in stock with these. But we purchased far too much, so we've now kind of got this orangutan stock sat there, which looks great and but isn't in our new packaging. So we're still trying to chase back up our packaging, which then is having this knock-on effect for us that we've got a heap of stock in there for our best seller, but it looks terrible compared to the new style of packaging, which actually works perfectly well for, say, a John Lewis, who we're approaching at the moment to try and stock our stock. So it's that almost double whammy as well, which is still hitting us years later. So, Anshuman, we've just gone through the top seller module and we've had a look at some of our top sellers and some of our non top sellers. And one of the
Yeah.
problems that I wanted to walk you through, obviously, as a retail expert, is we're going through our planning cycle, but some of the inputs we need to put into the tool really uncover some massive problems for us. So, as you can see, our lead time is huge, 105 days from
Yeah.
ordering to then receiving it. Our MOQ, if you look at the amount of socks we're selling, at kind of 250 to 500 is terrible. And then we're really only managing to reorder probably once a quarter and have a cover of 90 days. So some of
Yeah.
the what I guess as a retailer, what are you thinking about when you're seeing this?
No, I think these are the basic problems or basic issues which kind of creates your inventory problem because higher MOQs, longer lead times forces you to plan way in advance, and then the whole planning process can go wrong because you're trying to predict the demand pattern way ahead in future, right? And that's where we try to basically help brands identify that, let's say if they have 100 styles or 100 options, which are the options where they really should focus and make it as a green channel, and kind of, even though they're ordering once in quarter, but they can have multiple drops rather than bringing in everything together. And how can they churn out non-performing styles so that they have more quantity available for your best sellers and kind of manage the MOQ. So it's kind of focusing on two ends. Identify your core top sellers and make sure that you have a green channel and frequent drops, and keep churning out your non-performing styles or options, and kind of keep refining that list so that you have more quantity available for your best sellers in terms
Yeah.
of MOQs.
And that's honestly it. What I find crazy is the way you've set it out there, and Schumann is super simple and straightforward. But how often we have gotten this wrong as a brand is really
Yeah.
crazy because of all of the rubbish that goes into trying to make our model really clean, and that's where we're at here. So if we run this algo and then jump into the reports, it'll show us I think what you're starting to talk about as well. So we've run the report. It's now looking at what is our reordering report. And Shimon, what should we be looking at here, and how does it affect us? I think the big one for me is what are the forecasted ROS, and what is that?
Yes. So this is very interesting, Andy. So what we do when you are uploading your sales and inventory data, the tool automatically does multiple levels of cleanup. So it identifies, let's say, the days where your particular size, particular style, or option was stocked out. And hence, if let's say you are looking at 360 days of analysis, and out of those 100 days your style was not properly stocked, then looking at a gross rate of sale will give you a wrong picture because you are underestimating the potential of that style. When
Right.
the tool, it identifies specific days when you're stocked out and look kind of extrapolates that data to give you a true rate of sale or true potential of that style. The second thing it does is, let's say, for certain styles you may have overstocked and liquidated those styles by giving higher discounts. So even though the rate of sale and overall revenue from that style is high, but that's not the true potential of that style. It's a forced sale. So once you give your discount thresholds, the tool identifies liquidation sales and kind of brings down the potential of those styles to show that reflect the true potential. And so by cleaning up this noise, we are able to give you the true potential of every style at every point of sale. So it can be your own website, it can be various stores where you are selling through concession or through uh, direct sales. So it gives you your potential of every style at every store or every point of sale, right? And then it helps you in two ways. One, it allows you to order in the right quantity because now you know the potential of each style. And second, if in your warehouse you have limited inventory of a particular option or a style, then it looks at all the point of sale and ranks it so that the option goes to the best store or best point of sale where you have the highest chance of getting a conversion and revenue. And we call it store style ranking, where let's say you have 100 styles and 100 stores. The tool automatically computes the potential of every style in every store. So it creates 10,000 store style ranking and then allocates the inventory to the right location automatically. So you
Nice.
don't have to worry about where should the inventory go. The tool plans for you in that way.
And Shimon, when I'm looking at, I guess, our report here, one of the things that strikes me is I think there's a few things that I kind of already knew. Our puffins are one of our top sellers. So are our
Yeah.
sloths, and we've got a great forecast rate of sale there. And it is also the stock. It is also the item of stock that I also always have out of stock, or at least it feels like that compared to
Yeah.
my other products. But yet, where then I kind of scroll
No, so
down.
if you see if you go up,
Yeah,
see your top two top sellers. The second one is where you have a very high sale. You have already sold 1,000 plus pieces, and right now you have only 19 days of cover.
yeah,
So this is a style where there's high potential chance that you may go out of stock and you may lose sales.
yeah, absolutely.
So it allows you to quickly check that which are the styles where you are already stocked out. Like if you see style number 6 and 7, you are already stocked out.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and style number 4 and number 2 and number 4 where you have a very low cover. So you know where to focus and which ones to reorder. And once you are aligned with the output, you can make this process automated so that the tool automatically can filter out those styles and create a reordering output for you.
and then submit it straight away. And that's so helpful. And this is what we've been doing actually to cover our reorders. And thankfully, the tool focused on for us that we've got puffins and the sloths and the flamingos soon to be out of stock. But thankfully, they're
Yeah,
coming. Actually, I missed it by about a week, but rather than normally I've been missing it by a month or 2 months, say, and we've been out of stock, and then we actually we're out of stock
mm,
also were in the worst possible period during our Christmas tills as well. So that's
yeah.
really happy. So taking the top sellers, reviewing how many we're selling, how many we have on hand, and then what do we need to be reordering if you take into consideration that we didn't have stock in some on some days, or we did have stock in other days, and
Yeah.
that's why we love this report. Okay.
And Andy, you touched about your Christmas period. So interestingly, the tool also allows you to compare the performance of your options by seasonality and by festivity. So the tool will look at how these particular styles or attributes sold, let's say last Christmas, and hence which styles should you stock more in this Christmas, which attributes should you stock more, and how many pieces, so that you don't get stocked out in a festive period. Similarly, if there are seasonal products, then it picks up when the demand should pick up and when should you order. So you are ready with the inventory at the right time.
Yeah, and I think one of the pieces that I wanted to go through is checking out our orangutans. The amount we've sold a decent amount of them, but they've been live
Yes.
for pretty much the entire period. We've got it's one of our highest forecasted ROS, but we just have
Yes.
far too much on hand, and so I've got a problem here in that I've got this old stock that we were referring to previously, but I'm not selling
Yeah.
enough of it, and it's kind of so maybe I should probably have half the amount that I've got currently, or maybe a quarter
Or
of this
even
total.
lower. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is where the tool, or I guess the thought process around inventory management is really the life and lifeblood of a e-commerce and retail business.
Absolutely.
So, Anshuman, we've just walked through our top sellers, we've just walked through our reordering module, and now we're sat here looking at our dead styles. And we mentioned we've
That's
got a couple of problems where we've not got enough stock in for our products. For example, our flamingos, we don't have any of them in stock. They're selling really well, so we're missing out on sales at the moment. But then the other side of that coin is the dead style summary. And why is this important for us as a small business and retailer?
no, so and a couple of things, right? This, if you look at this report, it's very simple. It tells you that how many of your options or styles have not sold in last 7 days, or have not sold in, let's say, last 60 days, last 90 days. And if you see list of options which have not sold in last 90 days is a quite large number. So once you download this report, you know that these are on options where your inventory is stuck, where your working capital is stuck, and you need to do something drastic, right? Either liquidate it, give higher discount, and get this moving from your inventory and release working capital, right? And the other thing is you can also look at the attributes of these particular set of styles or options and see which attribute groups are not working, right? So you know what, let's say, what kind of products have completely gone out of trend. So it allows you to analyze that and make sure that you are kind of not making that same order again in future, similar attributes or similar attribute groups. So it helps you in two ways. One is identifying these styles where you need to take something, some drastic action, right? And second, analyze those attributes, those features of products, and then make sure that you don't repeat them again, make same mistake.
So, Benjamin, we've just, I guess, had a overall view of what is sold in the past 7 days, and then that huge bar of what's been not sold in the past past 90 days.
90
So
days,
let's
yes.
just jump into the tool and have a look at some of them. They hopefully make sense to me. So I know our 4 to 7 trainer, for example, we haven't had them in stock. But the new style we have had in stock, and so they have been sold in the last 7 days. So happy news on
Yeah.
that. But if I keep scrolling down, I should be able to find, another one, for example. So here we have our giraffes, and these giraffes are actually a mixture of sizes. We called it a couple special. We really thought this would work. It was a 2-pack of giraffe socks where customers could either buy it, maybe one size of 4 to 7, one side of the 7-Eleven. But I hadn't appreciated
Interesting.
they've just not sold at all. And in the past 90 days, we're not in Valentine's Day, but this really isn't good enough. I didn't realize I had to probably get rid of this product as a listing.
Yeah. But help me understand, what was the thought process when you kind of paired two different sizes? Is that some gifting concept or father-son twinning, or is that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. What's the problem that we were trying to solve as a business entryman was how do we get our average order value up so that we can, incorporate all of the shipping, picking, packing, costs that are kind of on a one-off, start to build bigger products. Because obviously people
Mhm.
think that, £10 for a pair of socks is a lot of money, but they will happily spend maybe 20 pounds on a product, something for them and their significant other. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what I think has probably happened, and this is really showing it, is that the socks are selling individually by themselves rather than in this kind of
In
made
the
up two
combination.
pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Andy, typically the way we analyze for any brand is we look at a 2 by 2 matrix, right?
Right.
So, products which have a higher rate of sale
Yeah.
and let's say low days of cover, days on hands of inventory.
Yeah.
So, that those are the products where there is a clear need to quickly reorder and make sure that you don't get stocked out. So, your rate of sale is good, but you're holding less of inventory. The second flip side of it is where you know that your rate of sale is bad and you are sitting on a large number of days of cover or on hand inventory. Those are the styles where you need to take some calls, do some promos, or give some discount so that you start moving that inventory out.
So, Anshuman, we've just gone through, I guess, what are our top sellers? What do we need to be reordering? And then I loved that last section about what do we need to be cutting as well, because that's the one that I really struggle with.
Yeah.
How can I possibly cut, the sock that saves the sun bears or the sock that saves the hedgehogs? Where I need to be looking at this as like, what's the most amount that we can donate? And this is where I think it's that interesting dichotomy of where we're trying to run a business that has a good social purpose, but yet if we hold more stock of
It becomes
animals that aren't
unsustainable.
selling, we're not saving any animals because all of the
Yes.
money's locked up in stock. So that really struggles for us. So, Anshuman, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
Where
you,
can
Andy.
everyone find your details?
So, if anybody is interested, they can go to our website, www.increff.com. It's a combination of two words, incredible efficiency. So INCREFF. So we live with that motto. So it's increff.com and
No,
you'll
that's
get all the
perfect.
details there. Yeah,
And it'll pop up somewhere above me on the screen and it'll be in the show notes as well. Um,
lovely.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you, Andy.